Welcome to the Pest Empire Builder Podcast. On this episode, we're talking about how to grow a family business from a small startup all the way up to a large operation. You do not want to miss this episode. And welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you tuned in today on Pest Empire Builder Podcast. Today we have Wilson from Colorado. That's right around the corner. I love it, man. So it's kind of cool. One of the things I love about this podcast is I get to interview people, all around the globe, really. And it's fun to have somebody up the street. Why'd you decide to move to Denver?
Oh, that's a cool story. So I was working in the industry in Michigan for several years. And it became pretty apparent that my current employer wasn't gonna offer much expansion for me, and so I actually tried to buy him out and didn't go very well. So that got me looking. Family suffered through lots of things in northern Michigan with the economy. I had been in Florida some as well through the housing situation there and work. And I was actually on Craigslist, looking through Craigslist at businesses, pest control businesses. It didn't really matter at that point. I just knew I wanted out of Michigan. I wanted to go somewhere where the winters weren't quite as harsh. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wanted to be close to a metro because metros have a lot of amenities. And when we were from northern Michigan, which is, 3 hours north of Grand Rapids, an hour north of Traverse City, just below that Mackinac Bridge. So it's a really rural area, limited resources, things like that. So found this on Craigslist, believe it or not. And it was, I believe, Memorial Day of either 2010 or I think it was 11. At that point, I had talked to my brother and my father about this, and we were like, hey, well, let's just go fly out there and talk to this guy that had this business listed on Craigslist. So that's what we did. That's what got us out here to begin with. And pretty interesting from there on how that conversation and things went.
Wow. Okay. So you're in Michigan. You don't want as harsh of winters. I get that. Denver has a nice winter though, I think.
It does.
It's not super harsh, but there's enough snow that it feels like winter. And so then you're moving into Denver. You like this, but you said your dad and your brother are involved. Were they involved up in Michigan as well, or is it there's something new for the three of you guys to come together on this?
Well, we had always been our whole lives worked well together. If there was a house, my dad was in construction growing up. He was a finish carpenter all the way from framing to finish. Lots of extended family in the other trades like concrete and things like that. So we had always done a lot of that type of stuff together. Mm-hmm. We had owned a family all through my early teens. We had owned a family company together up in East Jordan, Michigan, producing fruit preserves. So we kind of all went our separate ways a little bit. I was on the Northeast for a little bit, and then was in Tennessee doing some work in Florida. And then came back to Michigan and started working for a pest control company. And I believe it was 2009, or 2008, somewhere back then. And my dad had been kind of gone back into construction a little bit, and my brother was working at a bank.
Okay.
But we always had in our mind that, if something ever popped up, maybe we could do this together. So then there was some conversation there. And so then we came out here and explored that idea, looked at the area. I had never been here before. My brother and my father had been here once on vacation, but not for very long. I think it was only like for 6 days or something. So we really didn't know anything about the area. And back then, the internet, we didn't have ChatGPT or something to just quickly do.
So you guys, did the OG like researching on the market, and then so then did all three of you move to Denver to start this or to buy this company?
No. So that's where it gets really interesting. I sold a car to buy a service truck.
Okay.
Bought a service truck in Michigan, which I do not recommend doing, especially if it's used, because it will rot
All the salt from the roads, right?
It's just terrible.
Yeah.
And then probably don't put a Detroit Red Wings sticker on it if you're in Colorado.
Yeah, those Avalanche fans.
Yeah, that was probably, I took it off like after a month. I realized real fast that, you got to play along. But that process is my brother had some money that he invested. I sold a car and bought a service vehicle. My dad had time and a lot of experience in construction, but none in pest control. I was the one with the experience in the pest control. And my brother, granted, he was still working full time at a banking job and just starting a family and things like that.
Yeah.
So my dad and I got in this new used service vehicle and headed for Denver. And wow. It was not without its trials. First was I woke up somewhere in Iowa to my dad having ran out of fuel. Oh. So he walks to a farmer and 6 a.m. in the morning, knocked on their door and got some fuel. And, we had to bleed his diesel truck and, it was just a mess. And then we get a little bit further and I believe a Sunday, universal joint goes out on the rear drive shaft. Oh man! And this is where some resourcefulness comes in. Where I rebuilt it right on the side of the road with some O'Reilly Auto Parts parts. Got us to Colorado, and we literally, I believe at that point we finalized paying the gentleman that we bought his customer list from and all of his stock. We didn't take his service vehicle that he had or anything. It was an embryo company is how we like to describe it now. And knowing what we know now, we probably could have just started from scratch, but we felt we needed to have something. And that's why we decided to buy this from this gentleman for a very low amount of money. It was a very small amount of money. But
so when you say embryo company, can you describe that? I want to know what that means.
So he owned, he was a realtor and he had, as I understand it, he had a lot of rentals and he didn't want to pay for pest control. So he went out and got his applicator license. So then he did his own pest control and then he would do friends, family, neighbors. And it kind of just started going like, hey, can you come over and do this? And he built up a 250 client list, but his best year was 26K in revenue. So it was an embryo.
Yeah. Got it. This was a side hustle, not a
there was no
real business
established. So we basically started it, but we also felt like we needed to keep the name Whitmore Pest Control. I don't know if we
because you're not Whitmore. The other guy's Whitmore.
Yeah, his last name was Whitmore. So we just kept it because we had this mindset that everything could possibly fail if we didn't have absolutely all of the ducks in a row and all of the cheat codes programmed. So we were really concerned about stuff like that. And now mindset's changed and stuff like that. But then this is where it really gets freaky. We lived in an extended stay hotel in Castle Rock, Colorado for I think it was well over a month before we found a place to rent. So that's how green we kind of were. Like we didn't even have a place to rent yet. Then we got shell shocked at how much rental was compared to Michigan. There was just all these things that we had to learn along the way.
Oh my gosh. So with Whitmore Pest Control, you got it with about 250 clients. Is that right? So then how many guys do you guys have now?
Boy, with services over 2,000, I think.
And so you basically like 10x the company, but you still have the Whitmore name. That's interesting. Yeah.
And we've done a couple acquisitions where we've acquired other smaller companies in the area and bolted them onto us. So yeah, it's definitely been a mindset shift and a lot of learning.
Right. Well, I mean, and it didn't really cost you, like you said, you bought it for a pretty cheap price. So it probably didn't cost you that much money. And it gave you a little bit of revenue coming in the door right away, which is kind of nice too, as far as getting something going. Well, so for a number of years, I actually worked with my own family and that has a very unique set of circumstances around it, right? There are some pros and some cons to working with family. What are some of the pros and cons that you've experienced working with family?
The pros is you have a lot of history. The cons are you have a lot of history. And you think differently. So true. You've got to learn how to work together with and maintaining autonomy and individuality, and at the same time collectively pull and row in the same direction. And I think most of the time people are attempting to do that. They just get, bogged down with all of the fluff around the edges that's causing conflict. So early on, there was some, it was not enough money to go around. Right. So everybody's hungry. Everybody's has an idea of what the best way is to get more money. And there's just a lot of that. Some of us worked physically harder than others. Others were spending maybe a little bit more time on mind mapping. And then you had the chaos of getting pulled in and out of both of those. My dad's a visionary, comes up with a lot of great ideas. So if you yank him out of that and put him into service, it can be rough, or vice versa. He's in the service mindset, and then you're wanting him to come up with a solve on some critical infrastructure issue. It just can cause issues. I'm a little bit the same way. For a long time, I worked split schedule, admin work, thinking, building work, and vice versa. So early on, it was my dad and I out here. Well, first off, my dad was here solo, while I went back and actually finished out another summer with the pest control company I'd been working with. So there was a lot of him calling for advice. I didn't need to give him any advice or coaching at all on the home restoration side of our business. But on the pest control side, dusting lost nests, spraying for spiders, things like that, he was completely green. And so it was a phone conversation all the time on how to do this. My brother didn't come on full time until 2021.
Okay.
He was a silent partner, but he still helped build the critical infrastructure of the business. He has a really good business mindset. But then in 2014, I think it started coming to a head where we were like, hey, we got to figure something out working with family.
Yeah.
And that's where I think for me, I'll speak about me. I don't know what the journey was for them. One thing I identified is I wasn't doing anything for myself, for just recreating. I didn't really have a lot of friends here in Colorado. In 2013, I joined the local volunteer fire department. So I started to get involved with the community and started building friends, but we still had all business growth, not hardly any money, all of the above. I scraped up enough money to buy a 2014 Ducati Monster 1200S. And that changed a lot of things for me. I would go riding and think while I was riding, spend time in the mountains. I had a cousin. He and I did everything together for one summer in particular. And it really cleared my mind. And then we also got together as a family and we're like, let's get outside coaching, counseling. I don't know what you call it. Yeah. And so that started a journey, my personal journey, for myself on understanding myself, how I relate to other personalities. We actually took personality tests and would understand the strengths and weaknesses, and then how, if you saw somebody else's profile and how you communicate with your profile, and then see how you can get those gears to mesh instead of clash. That was huge. I mean, we still have little flare-ups every now and then, but they're nothing like it used to be. And there's this underlying understanding that I have what's best for you, not I'm out to get you.
Right. That's a big difference right there. Yeah. And like that whole idea, you just said a whole mouthful there, getting some coaching to understand your personality, their personality. And part of coaching, I do a lot of business coaching. A lot of coaching is a little bit of counseling. I think that's such a killer thing. You got to do that with your top staff, top team, no matter what. And I like the getting the motorcycle. That's they say that's therapy, right? Or it brings mental health. But I think finding something that is an outside activity that you can do brings mental health all the way around.
So I bought a new truck. Like, why make an excuse for it? You had the money, you wanted a nice truck, you bought a nice truck.
Absolutely.
It's the same with your personal free time. If you need to clear your head and you need to go rock climbing, or you need to ride a motorcycle, or you need to go skydiving, don't make an excuse for it. Just do it.
Yeah, you got to do it, right? Yeah, like I bought, a couple of years ago, 2 years ago now, I bought a F-250 diesel, King Ranch, all the bells and whistles, and then I took it over to the shop and I was like, let's make this thing super awesome. Yeah. No excuses. Like, you know what? I did take that vacation because I needed to get my head straight, and I needed to go enjoy myself. And yeah, I think if we have to make excuses for us taking care of us, I don't know. That's not a good place to be. I think we should be able to celebrate those things, and,
for sure.
Yeah. You want to buy a Rolex, go buy a Rolex, like, the little like $20 watch tells you the same time the Rolex tells you,
For sure.
But if you want the Rolex, you'll get the Rolex,
Yeah.
And no excuses for it either. Yeah. Just like, yeah, had a great year, bought something nice, and, I think
that's the mindset shift I think a lot of people need to, because it tells me a lot about somebody if they immediately are making an excuse about something enjoyable or something that they needed to do for themselves or their family or anything. Like, oh, you want your kid to have brand new hockey gear? Great. You don't want to buy used? You don't need to make that excuse. You just buy new if you want to.
Yeah.
And just say, well, that's what I want to do. Just admit it and be honest. And it's like, instead of being like, well, I couldn't find a size anywhere. That's kind of where I'm going psychologically with it, not necessarily business building. It just tells and I used to be there. I had to grow in that. I made all kinds of excuses for the first really nice diesel truck I had.
Yep.
And the next one, the one I have now, is a 24 Denali Ultimate. Everybody's like, wow, you got a nice truck. I was like, yeah, thanks.
And sometimes it's like, oh, I'm going to get judged, because of my success. And a lot of us have been. Like, people have tried to judge me or shame me and stuff too. When I got that truck, I had a bunch of people going like, dang, Matt, must be nice. You should make the sacrifices.
There's no excuses anymore. I mean, you can educate yourself for practically free. The information you used to have to really, really get, go to specialized schools and stuff to learn this stuff. And now you can.
It's right here.
Yeah.
I can watch videos on YouTube. Artificial intelligence, AI apps and stuff have made it so fast, so streamlined now. It's like, if you want to start a business, you're still going to put in hard work. You know what I mean? Like the level of hard work and discipline that it takes and the sacrifice. People don't count the cost sometimes of what it takes to get a business started or growing and off the ground, but it's there. And if you're willing to take the risk and work your butt off, you know what? It is nice. It's nice when you've gotten to the certain place in business where you can buy yourself a truck and not have to be worried about it.
For me, the education piece is huge. I don't know how many times a week you go to the gym, but mine is 3 to 5. And about 3 years ago, I was listening to music that I thought would help me lift heavier, run farther, do this and that, the other thing. And I was like, I don't know what the real benefit. If I'm trying to set a personal best, maybe I'll still put on some, heavy something. But you can listen to a ton of podcasts and a ton of personal development stuff going to the gym. And I consume a ton of podcasts.
Yep.
And people are like, well, geez, how do you do that? I'm like, well, we all go to the gym.
Yep.
Listen to this stuff while you're doing your cardio or even while you're lifting, because you can definitely, that 3-minute rest that you get in between your 45-second lifts, you should be able to consume quite a bit of material. And it completely, there's like a ton of key stuff that sticks in my head that I've learned from listening to all these podcasts, and that filters down into your business and your mindset. And yes, bootstrapping, going back, just because you have what you have now doesn't mean you didn't bootstrap and you didn't work hard. And there was a time when you couldn't have those things, or it was not a wise decision to buy that item. But so often people look at you and they're like, I love what he has. They don't ask the how questions or why questions.
Yep.
And those go way, way, way back, sometimes even way before you even started the business.
Yeah.
But people, I think, need to be a lot more curious about the hows instead of the what you got now. Everybody notices that. I mean, you pick somebody that's successful, even in this industry, in pest control industry, and you're just like, well, geez, I want that. But you better start asking how, and then looking at what I'm struggling to find the word, but the not metamorphosis, but the
Evolution, maybe?
The evolution of where they came from and where they went. Because
Yes.
most people didn't just start with $2 million in their pocket and just to throw it into a business. They bootstrapped at some point.
No, yeah, it's absolutely right. You build it as you're going, and you have to get super resourceful. You have to be able to get like kind of scrappy. And I think scrappy and resourceful. Almost every entrepreneur I know, the ones that I've started from the ground up, learned how to get really resourceful. I mean, I think you even talking about like fixing a U-bolt on the side of the road with like whatever duct tape and super glue, or whatever it is that you have, like that's resourceful. You have to get like scrappy and resourceful. You know, are there ways in your business that you've had to be? I mean, I know that was like kind of funny, but like resourceful in your business in other ways.
Well, there's lots of, I think the resourceful part is trying to make money and education at the same time, and just doing that grind early on, the long hours, and then at night doing admin work and education.
Yep.
And I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't make time for the education portion. Otherwise, you're just going to keep chasing the circle. And then the resourcefulness in business, in operations side of business, is you got to be, obviously, if you're talking operations and a truck goes down, or maybe when you're super small and you have 2 trucks and one goes down, there's 50% of the production for that day. That's a big number.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting here like, what if the other one goes down? So being resourceful early on, because you don't have all those systems in place yet. You don't have the vendors to come in and fix it. You don't have spare parts sitting on a shelf.
Right.
And so you got to be super resourceful. And we were lucky in that sense that I'm very mechanically minded, very engineer minded. So all of our early on stuff, like building spray rigs, the detailed, like I just didn't go get spray rigs that somebody production produced. These were custom. Like I had schematics that I drew on paper.
Wow.
And then I built them.
Wow.
And that was my sort of being resourceful and bootstrapping. We were small. I think we had like maybe 6 trucks on the road. And a guy called me. He's like, hey, the brake pedal went to the floor. And I was like, which wheel is there fluid underneath of? Look underneath. And he told me, and I just ran to the parts store, grabbed that, ran up, put it on right beside the residential house, bled the brakes, and had him back going in about 45 minutes. So that is resourceful. On the business side of it, you'd have to speak with my brother. He's very resourceful when it comes to manipulating business relationships and getting what you need and what the other person needs. He's very resourceful in that. I'm resourceful in the operations.
Got it. Yeah. That's a really good quality to have, I think. You mentioned, you said it in passing, I think before we hit record, but you know, where there's a will, there's a way. But what was the new version you had?
Where there's a Wilson, there's a way.
Where there's a Wilson, there's a way.
And you've got to protect it though. If you're a highly resourceful person and you have resources at your disposal, because people will come in and they're not taking advantage of you. You're allowing a lot of people to take a small piece, which then becomes a big piece of you. So that's something I've learned a little bit more recently, like within the last couple of years, is like, oh, you have all these trailers, you have all these trucks, you have all these tools, you have a shop. And I always was like, oh, I've been blessed to have this, I need to share it. But then people were borrowing stuff and it would come back and it needed to go out on a job on Monday. And something little happened that made it so that my company couldn't make money. And my responsibility is first and foremost, I think, myself.
Yep.
Secondly, is to my company and then my employees. And if I'm loaning my stuff out and it's getting damaged and then they can't go out and make money, then what am I doing? So I had to start putting some boundaries up around some of that. And it wasn't just all me realizing that on my own. My brother, he's like, dude, we've got $100,000 lift. Like, it's got to work. Like, you're loaning out to your buddy. Yeah. So there was some learning curves around that resourcefulness. It's great to have, like, and it feels good when people call you because they know that you'll help them out. But maybe what you really need to be doing is spending time with your son at hockey and investing into him instead of running around, doing things for other people.
Yeah, right. That's wow. Having that all in balance is important, especially when it comes to like, your kids going to kids' sporting events, making sure that they're there present in their life. And as you prioritize it, you're like, okay, my spouse or kids are going to come first, and then business is going to come after that. And then friends come down there lower. But if what you're doing to help your friends down low is hurting your higher priority, then obviously, you don't want to do that.
Well, and this isn't for me. I think I heard this on Chris Williamson and when he had Matthew McConaughey on recently, is you should, a new way that I'm trying to live my life is I have no control over my reputation, because that's relative. How you view my relative or my reputation versus somebody else. Right. What I have control over is my character.
Yep.
So that's the true measurement, not your now I'm drawing a blank. You know what I just said.
Yeah, reputation, right.
Your reputation. Yeah. So character over reputation. It doesn't mean that, you might have to do some reputation management, but all it takes is one person just to go out there and say a whole bunch of bad stuff and can damage your reputation, but did that damage your character?
Right. And that's very good, because there's always somebody that doesn't like you. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Yeah. Somebody's not happy with you, and that one person, they could go out and say things, I really don't like that guy, and they could try to damage your reputation. But you're right. Like if your character is right, then, and I don't know, just because somebody's not happy with you doesn't mean you're not making the right decision.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good nugget, because you're not going to get along and mesh with everybody. And Correct. That's the same way with your customers. Not every one of your customers is meant for you. Your systems, your processes, this and that, the other thing. You got to learn how to get customers that are most closely with the way you do business. But it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're doing things wrong. And we tend to overweight the one-offs and frantically try to change something because of a one-off situation. It's what I learned from my brother. He's like, we got to stop overweighting this one issue that we have that happens once a quarter.
Right.
And we're doing all these other things right. And it's the same in personal relationships. I mean, there's people that I've was like, oh, great, that's awesome. Maybe that guy, he and I can start hanging out and doing some pretty cool stuff together. Hang out one or two times and it's just not there. It's like, okay, well, if you're mature and they're mature, you're just like, hey, cool, great. And sometimes those people aren't going to like you, or you're not going to like them, and you're going to be guilty of saying something about them. And I like to, if I hear somebody else saying something to me about somebody else, my first reaction isn't like, well, that person must be a shitbag. Even if it's somebody I trust, I'm just like, maybe they're not meshing with that person or truly listening to that person. And there's just this incompatibility happening, instead of that person has bad character, because we immediately associate reputation with character. That, to me, what I've started to learn and what I think I understand now is, yes, I think there's some correlation there, but you shouldn't just jump but somebody else saying something about somebody's reputation and immediately jump to character.
Right. Yep. Yeah. No, 100%. Right. Yeah. And someone's right. You hit the nail right on the head with that one, man. You really did. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. That's really good. Yeah, that's good. So working with family has its pros and cons. You know each other and you know each other. And so how do you guys divide it up right now? Just like organizational chart wise between you and your dad and your brother. How do you guys organize the lanes so that you're not stepping on each other's toes?
So my brother is CEO. And he does a lot of admin. He works remote from Michigan. And so a lot of stuff does filter through. He has a very high level view of the company. even though he's only worked in it since 2021. He was involved before, just at the level he's at now. My dad is our trainer. He does works on developing our training processes. He's currently working on getting that all virtual training so that you don't have to spend the time over and over again retraining. I'm COO, and my mother is our HR, and she does the day-to-day like deposits and things like that. We outsource a lot of stuff that maybe we might be good at, but is not a good use of our time.
Right.
So that's kind of how it's set up right now. My brother and I talk every day. He knows that operationally, he can trust me, and I know I can trust him business-wise, and we have the same relationship with our father.
That's awesome. That's so good. I think a family-run business that has good emotional intelligence.
We have quarterlies and annual meetings, and our annual meetings are always off-site.
You're going to use to accomplish the goals. And so everything rises and falls on the leader. And if the leader has an elevated mindset, and if their mindset is shifting and they have personal growth, it trickles down and affects the entire business. And so really everything in what we talk about is our mindset first, goes to strategy, goes to tools. And that's my shameless plug for Pest Empire Builder. If you want more information, go to our website. We have a whole coaching mastermind group that helps guys like us be able to elevate our businesses.
Yeah, for sure. The copy and paste is a really good analogy because that's like taking a legal description from New York and copying and trying to paste it in Albuquerque. It's just not going to apply the same, and it just doesn't work. Or trying to model a Florida pest control company in Michigan, for example. It's just, you might be able to take nuggets from here, there, and everywhere and piece them together. Right. But the mind mapping has to come from you and development.
Well, yeah. The environment, like the environmental conditions in Florida, are radically different than Albuquerque or Phoenix or LA or Michigan or Denver. You're dealing with different types of bugs that are coming in, and different kinds of environmental circumstances. So, and that's just on the application, like in the production field side. But then beyond that, there's a cultural difference between how people in Florida think and act and work and do business and the way that they work in New Mexico or California or Michigan or Denver. And there's a cultural difference from market to market that you kind of have to adapt to a little bit. And so that's why I'm telling you, like, you can't just copy and paste other people's stuff. And even cultural differences within our businesses. Like my business has a certain culture, so does yours. And the strategy and tools that works in yours may not work in mine just because we're culturally different as humans. And so you're going to get the results that you're getting because you started with the mindset into the strategy, into the tools. And so, developing the leader and everything else starts to develop around it.
Yeah. You take that Michigan mindset that we had, nothing against Michigan, but it was a very, you used the term earlier, scarcity mindset, coming from where we came, and then trying to plug that mindset into Denver, which I would say Denver does not have a scarcity mindset. I think stunted us early on until we caught on to like, hey, this is the culture here. This is what our customers need here. This is what they're asking for. This is how they like to do business. Does it fit within what we can do? Yes. Box checked. Mindset shift. Success. It's not that simple, but that, like, if I tried now to go back to Michigan and start a company in that same area, I'd probably have some things to learn. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting how every city and every market tends to have its own unique culture. And how do you shift to be able to adapt to that?
I'm sure you've interviewed larger companies. I genuinely have this question, not just regional companies, but nationwide companies, how they facilitate that, because every one of their markets is going to be slightly different. And there's going to be a different culture from East Coast to West Coast, et cetera, and everything in between. But you still kind of have that hierarchy structure of CEO, COO, your finance ops, all of this stuff, and how they adapt as leaders into adapting to that cultural shift within their own company.
Right. That's where that's an interesting conversation too. And I've had that conversation with larger multi-state companies. And it would appear, I'm not in that position personally, get fast and friction free and easy, and Yeah, that's what they value. That's interesting how different cultures value different things. And
other people want to have the conversation while you're taking their card number or they're writing the check or something like that. My perception of Denver is like, can I just tap this thing, or can my computer automatically sign? I've got my payment information saved. Can I just click on the link and it's done?
Very transactional.
Can your CSR take down my number and I don't have to give it to you again, and you'll call me if my card expires or I had to get a new one. I'm the same way. So it works out. Like, if you don't have Apple Pay on your website, I'm probably not going to buy from you.
I'm the same way.
It's like, if it's not simple, if I can't just I'm not going to go get my card out of my truck and
I'm not
write that number down.
I want to click Apple Pay and scan my face and be done with it and move on. Yeah, that's it.
I think in the home services, it's no different. People, even though it's a service and not a product, they still want to make that simple. And I think that it might be different in other cultures, but I think across the whole, it's a younger generation that's coming on the scene and owning houses or leasing or what have you. They want that.
They do. They want speed of service. They want it simple.
Like, oh boy, nobody's going to know what cash is. You're right. I don't think in 15 years people are going to know what cash is. Call me crazy. I mean,
no, I think we're headed down that path pretty right now, pretty fast.
Yeah. And so if you think small, stay small. If you don't change, you're going to get left behind. And every major company that you look at, big or small, if they do not adapt to the winds of change, they're gone.
100%. 100%. And I think that we've had waves of change that have come through. And I think it comes in waves. When the internet was first coming around, if you're like, nope, my Yellow Page ad works just fine. Like, I don't need to have any sort of website or SEO or any of that kind of stuff. People look in the Yellow Pages, they find me, I do the work, it works. And if you stayed there, you wouldn't be in business anymore. Because the wave of the internet came through, and then social media after that, it's like, I don't need to have social media, no, now you kind of need to have social media, and a website for your company. And now AI is coming into play, and AI is one of the next wave of things that we've all got to learn how to adapt and change and grow. And as people are going to adapt it more and more, the younger generation's going to adapt all this new technology. And the older guys, if we're not careful, we got to stay up on it or we're going to left behind.
It goes back to, are you open-minded and acceptable to change? Because if you just write it off, you have no influence in mapping it whatsoever.
Right.
So you don't like the subdivision getting built down the street. Growth is going to happen whether you like it or not. Yep. So if you're just against it, you have no say in how that's developed to change the course of the future. It's the same in technology. Like, you hear it over and over again. Electric cars came on the scene, and all of the things that happened around that. Now you have AI, and I just remind people that if you'd asked people what they needed back in the early 1900s, they'd have just told you faster horses. And that's not me. That's been around for a long time, but it never changes with us as humans. We always default to the same tribalistic and unchanging ways.
But there's nothing wrong with being a solopreneur. There's nothing wrong with that self-employment path. I did it myself for many years in different businesses. And I think success is your business doing for you what you want it to do for you. That's really what success is. And so, staying after that and being focused and be like, you know what, it's doing what I want it to do. And if that means I don't have a boss, I don't have employees, I have no stress in my life, I get up, I run my route, and I go back home and I'm happy, then you're happy, and that's success.
I think you just have to have honesty around it.
Absolutely. Be honest with what you want and what you like and what works for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. And if that is what you want, I fully support it. Just be honest about it. But then you also don't get to complain because there's a max of what one guy can do if we're talking pest control.
Correct. There's only so many stops you can make in a day.
And so if you're not satisfied with the income level, you're going to have to make these changes that you and I have been talking about.
Yes.
In my opinion, there's no other way. Even having 2 or 3 employees and still running a route yourself, I think that that's one of the steps along the way. And you have to, maybe you have to do that for a little bit of time, but eventually you're going to have to focus on the necessary steps if your goal is to create those opportunities and grow and invest back into the community and, you know, all of those positives that you just mentioned, and be a place where the people that work for you talk to their friends and then they come work for you too. We've had that. We have a program, a referral bonus for employees that come in, and we've had multiple people use that. And they've brought really good employees into our organization. But you first have to be an organization that those current employees want their friends to come work with them at your organization. So I think that's just huge. But it is all in what you want. And I'm not going to be, maybe I came across a little bit negative towards that. I didn't mean it that way. I get frustrated when people are solopreneurs and they want more, but just refuse. And there's lots of excuses.
Yeah.
There's lots of, like, the world's got me down. Like, I mean, we grew under Obama. We grew under Trump. We'll grow underneath the next administration.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just think if you're constantly looking for negativity and excuses, where I get frustrated.
I agree too. Yeah. And if you're not happy with what you're getting out of your business, then it's time to make changes, you know. Yes. And like we've covered already, like, it starts in your head. It starts with the mentality. It starts with the way you approach things. And so when you change your perspective and your mindset on everything, that's when everything else starts to trickle down and change. And if your mindset is you're a victim and you've been oppressed by whatever current political administration or current economical conditions or current market conditions or something that's outside of yourself, and you're now the victim of those types of obstacles in your life, there's a mentality shift. You need to change your mentality. Your mindset has to change, because as long as those things are the reason that you're not successful, then you will never make a change, and you'll always be you'll be victimized by all these external circumstances. And it's like, no, like, at some point you take personal ownership and say, okay, I don't like the results I'm getting. And so there's external factors that maybe push or pull different directions, but it's my business. I'm in charge, and my mindset, I'm the one who determines whether or not we're going to be growing and successful or not anything else that's out there.
And there are things that create that you become a victim of. An employee doesn't give you any notice on a Monday morning, and there's a full week's route scheduled. Yep. Okay, you're a victim of that. But if you're at that level where you're running a route, or maybe you're not running a route, and you've got 2 or 3 guys working, and one, again, we talked about this earlier, 50% or 30% of your production is poof gone. If once you start getting scaling and there's more and more and more, then let's say you have 10 employees and one quits or has to be fired or something that you become a victim of, it's a lot easier to spread that route out temporarily amongst the 9 remaining than it is the 1 remaining if you got 2 guys.
Right.
And then you work on the process. And I'm stealing this from my brother because he's really, really process oriented. You have to change it from the mentality from, well, I'll just do it myself if I want it done right. No, you need to go back, develop the process. And then when the process, or if something fails, don't overweight that one-off thing. If it starts to happen more frequently, you don't make some off-the-hip gut change unless it's life or death. Well, because if it's just willy-nilly and things are just all over the place, that's going to cost you way more time and energy than if you've got your tire vendor, all of this stuff already. That's, in my position, that's what I am responsible for. And then delegating those responsibilities on down. Right. And as you grow, I mean, can you imagine? So you've got 30, we have lofty goals. We've got 60 in a couple of years, or a short amount of time. And then it's 90. And the next thing you know, me and my fleet and facilities guy, it's going to be way over our head at that point. So I've got to be forward thinking. That's where I need to be spending my time instead of changing out a wheel bearing, spending my time forward thinking. And if we're going to have 90 vehicles, that means, well, I better source the upfits on these. Like, I need to have warehouse space to have this. If we're going to, we've taken this stance in our company that we do a lot of stuff in house.
Yeah.
And so I literally have a company in China that makes those smart caps that you pay like $7,000 for on your F-150 here in the United States.
Yep.
I get them shipped here for $1,600 because I buy them from China and it takes 4 or 5 months. So if I wasn't looking ahead, I wouldn't know when to order those. So that's kind of where I'm at right now in the company, and even thinking beyond that too, because if I've got 90 vehicles on the road, I need to have quite the facility.
Yeah, your maintenance facility.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have 90 vehicles on the road, you're changing oil every day. You're changing brakes every week.
And there's a lot of things that make that simple for you. Like a lot of if you're out there and you're like, man, that sounds like even 20 vehicles, that sounds like overwhelming. There is software that just does it for you. And it's a simple math calculation. If on average it's every 5,000 miles and you know that your fleet drives 300,000 miles a year, just divide it by 5,000 and figure out how many oil changes, every 30,000 miles it breaks. You just kind of got an idea. You can have a spreadsheet built for it, or you can use like Azuga or Fleetio or any of the other bazillion softwares out there, which I think the softwares are going to go away. Everything's going to just be tied to AI and it's just going to be a user interface. But that's my point. That's what I think is coming down the line. I don't think you're going to have a tech stack anymore.
Right. It's all, everything's going to change on that front for sure, man. For sure, man. This has been a really great conversation. We've kind of wandered into a few different areas, but we've been hanging out for a while. It's probably about time to land this plane, man. So, what's your website? What's your company name, website? And if someone has questions or listening, they want to ask you more information about what you're doing, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so it's Whitmore Pest Control here in the Denver Metro. Our website is Whitmore. That's WHITMORE, pestcontrol.com. That's the email as well, wilson@whitmorepestcontrol.com. I wish I would have made it WPC. It'd have been a lot shorter, but for some reason I spelled it all out. It never fits on any government forms or anything like that. And then I'm very active on social, so you can find me, Wilson Christner, on Facebook. My Instagram is Mountain High Living. And I'm very active on Instagram, post a lot of stuff with me and my son and business related stuff. Just reach out to me there. And I can send you a calendar link through Motion if you want to jump on a call and chit chat a little bit.
All right, man, this has been great having you on the show. And I can't wait to see you again in the near future.
Yeah, you're close enough. You can come up for some sugar.
That sounds good. All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Yep.